I'm McGee with EURweb.com, Mr. Stephen Lang. Thank you so much for giving me your time today to speak about this very exciting series, House of David. And of course, you play the very powerful and revered prophet Samuel. And of course, portraying biblical figures can be challenging, as we know. So, my first question for you today, sir, is how did you prepare for the role as Samuel, and what aspects of this character resonated with you the most?
Well, I think the only way to prepare to play Samuel probably is to pray. But prayers aside, because they don't always get answered, you know, I think that it's wise to go to the source material, which is a book, a very good book, in fact, and to read it and then reread it and then maybe read it again and again, and to try to absorb what you can, and perhaps go to some of the commentaries, of which there are many, obviously, and to try to understand as much as one can about who this figure was historically, and then to try to understand that to every history that at some point it begins to coalesce into legend as well. And legend becomes a matter of imagination and speculation, and to try to weave up an authentic and believable and true characterization based on all the information that you're trying to absorb, I think. And then in the end, when the cameras roll, I think what you do is you just take a leap of faith and do what you can and relate to the people that you're working with, and see what happens. To say, in one sense, it's not so different from working on many, many other roles. The kicker here, of course, is that this is the first time that I've ever played a character who had a direct relationship, a direct speaking relationship with the Lord. I played characters who had deep relationships with the Lord, like Stonewall Jackson, or even Vaslav Nijinsky. He thought he had a relationship with God. But I never did one where, I talked to God and God talked back.
Right on. And I have to say, the first episode, your performance in the first episode is such a great setup. I mean, you're so passionate. It's so raw. It pulls us right in. I really enjoyed watching you as Samuel kick this series off. And of course, Christians, religious folks, biblical scholars know that Samuel plays a key role in anointing both Saul and David. So, how does House of David explore Samuel's inner conflict as he transitions from one king to another?
That's a very interesting question, and I would say I'm not sure when you talk about inner conflict. He is. I would characterize his conflict having to do with his personal feelings of responsibility, of paternity, in a sense, and affection for both Saul and for David. Very, very different. He feels very, very differently from them. But I don't believe that there is any that through a night of sacrifice, through a full night of prayer and dialogue with Yahweh, I think any conflicts that Samuel has about the rightness or the righteousness of what he is doing is completely resolved. One of the things that's interesting about Samuel is that he has no doubt about what he is doing. He has none whatsoever. And in this sense, Samuel is a fundamentalist. He's quite fundamentalist when it comes to this. In other respects, not so, because he has tremendous love for Saul. It's not an easy love. It's not an untroubled love at all. Never has been, in my opinion. He sees Saul for who he is, the good, the bad, the majesty, and also the less noble parts of him. And I I would not term it as conflict. I would term it as personal emotional turmoil, perhaps, that he goes through because it's hard to renounce someone that you feel so deeply about, you know? It strangely, it has nothing to do with the fact that he anointed him in the first place. He's not making any apologies. I did the anointing. God told me to do it. You know, I did the renouncing. God told me to do it. I'm going to anoint somebody else because God tells me to do it. His love for David is completely different. It's a much gentler, much more contoured, smoother. The contours of that relationship are much more smooth. And David brings a sense of joy and happiness and actually a levity to Samuel that I think will become apparent, as things go on. I mean, I'm not saying he's a laugh riot or anything like that, but just the presence of David brings Samuel a tremendous amount of joy, it seems to me. So anyway, if I that's the answer I'd give you.
And that's a great answer, sir. And that's my time. Perfect.